go ahead and start with the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Blessed are you, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctifies us with his commands and commands us to engross ourselves in the words of Torah. All right. Now, tonight, we're going to continue on with the 7th chapter of Daniel. And I'm just going to go ahead, and since we didn't have a class last week, to try to just get, kind of give you a brief review of last week, or 2 weeks ago when we had our class. And you will remember that Daniel had this dream or a vision, they call them night visions or a dream, in the first year of the reign of Belshazzar. Now, so this dream occurred about 3 years before the incident with the writing on the wall and then the subsequent overthrow of Babylon. So we've kind of taken a step back in this, and so Daniel, he saw, his dream was he saw the great sea, the Mediterranean, being churned up with the winds from the four corners of the earth, just a terrible storm. And then out of the sea came the four fearsome beasts that he described. And the first of the beasts was like a lion with eagle's wings, and then the wings were cut off or plucked out, and the lion, of course, was then stuck on the ground, and he stood up, and he was given the heart of a man. Now, this possibly alluded to the kingdom of Nebuchadnezzar, who was strong like a lion, but at the height of his reign, he was brought low because he, as you remember, he lost his mind, and for a period of time, whether it was 7 months or 7 years or whatever, he basically turned into kind of an animal out in the pasture, and he said he ate grass like the beasts of the field. And so then the next beast that Daniel saw was a bear, and it had 3 ribs in his mouth, and he was told to arise and devour a lot of flesh. This would correspond to the Medo-Persian Empire. A bear is not a very subtle animal. They do everything that they do by just brute force. So this is kind of what the Medo-Persian Empire was like when they would go to battle. They would just they had shock and awe campaigns. They would just overwhelm the enemy with sheer numbers of people that they could bring to the battlefield. So this was probably the Medo-Persian Empire. And at the time of Daniel's dream, this, in the first year of Belshazzar's reign, the Medo-Persian Empire had not come to power yet. So this was still a prophetic word for Daniel. Now, the third beast that he saw was like a leopard. Now, leopards are very, very fast. I guess the only animal in the jungle that's faster than a leopard would be the cheetah. But a leopard is very fast. And then this one had bird's wings, so that would make it even more mobile than a leopard. And it had 4 heads and had great dominion. And this would correspond to the Greek Empire, the Grecian Empire, which was extremely fast in their conquest of the known world at that time. In fact, I think Alexander did all this stuff in about 3-4 years. And then when he was at the age of 33, he was very sad because he had no more countries or empires to conquer, because he'd conquered basically what they considered the known world at that time. So he split the kingdom up on his death. He was asked, well, who's going to fill your shoes when you die, and which general do you want to succeed you? And he said, the strongest one. So basically it was split up between the four generals: Cassander, Ptolemy, Antigonus, and Seleucus. I apologize for any mispronunciation of those things. But then they had the fourth beast, and just by way of history, the general Seleucus was up in Assyria, and he was the one that basically Israel fell under his purview. And then it was later that the Jews were able to throw off the Greeks. Their leader was Antiochus Epiphanes, and so they were able to throw them off, and that's the Seleucid Empire, or the Greeks from that period of time, at around 165 BCE. Now the fourth beast was like any other of the previous three, totally different. It defied description. Daniel really couldn't describe it other than describing his the attributes for it. He said that he had the teeth of iron and big claws, and it was just a terrible beast. And this beast really captured the imagination of Daniel. And so that was a review. And so tonight we'll go ahead and continue on with the rest of the dream. So is there anyone have a question on that first part of Daniel before we go on? Any kind of question or addition or anything to that? Okay. I think everybody should have you can control your own mics. I don't have anybody muted tonight. So, all right, we'll continue on with the next one then. I'll just read this because we do have people that call in on telephones, and they don't have the screen in front of them. Daniel 7:9 through 12. While I was watching, thrones were set up, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His garment was as white as snow, and the hair of his head was like pure wool. His throne was ablaze with flames, its wheels a burning fire. A river of fire was flowing and coming out from before him. The thousands of thousands attended him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The court was seated, and the books were opened. I kept watching because of the boastful words of that the horn was speaking. I continued watching until the beast was slain and its body destroyed and thrown into the blazing fire. As for the rest of the beasts, their dominion had been taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season. Now, this is really, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on in just these verses. You go back and you look at here's a picture of a depiction of the Ancient of Days as Daniel perhaps saw him, but this is just a depiction, and I've got another couple of pictures there that that would depict the scene that Daniel was trying to describe. And I'm sure that probably nothing that an artist could come up with would be even close. But you remember that when he's talking about that the horn was speaking, they had the fourth beast had 10 horns, and then one of the horns came up and knocked away 3 of the horns. And this particular horn could speak, it could see, it could, it was a mouthpiece, I guess it was, and it was very, very proud, boastful, and it said blasphemous. So this was a a beast that had this one crown that just overshadowed all the rest of them, and it was quite different than all the other things that Daniel had seen. So, and then it talked about that the power had been taken away from the other three beasts, and of course we knew that we know that now today with the hindsight of being in the year 2016, that of course the Babylonian Empire was gone 3 years after Daniel saw his dream, and then the Medo-Persian Empire, it eventually was defeated by the Greeks, and then the Greeks finally fell to the Roman Empire, and then of course the Roman Empire lasted good long time, and eventually it went away. So I wanted to say though that these scriptures, here's a picture, another depiction that of this scripture, and it was this is more like I think Ezekiel talking about the wheel within a wheel, and so that's kind of a depiction that somebody had come up with. And then here's another depiction that had the animals, the seraphim around him, and then just pure light. It was a case of just so much light that coming from the throne of God. Okay, so then these I wanted to say that these scriptures that we read here, that it should be it's got the Ancient of Days. He is the judge, and this Ancient of Days is God the Father. And it showed that the books were open. What books? Well, evidently books that judge record the deeds of the people of the earth. And so this this looks very much like a judgment day. And so I think that we could see that this judgment, I think it will be the judgment at the end of time. So, but what these things do, I think they encourage us, because why? This judgment is encouraging because, number one, this tells us that there's definitely a judgment coming. The wicked will finally be held accountable for their deeds. How often have we looked around us and been frustrated because it seems like the wicked get away with murder? And this description in Daniel most likely portrays the final judgment at the end of the world. God is often described as fire or fiery, and in fact he presented himself to the children of Israel at their exodus, coming out of Egypt, and then for the next 40 years as a pillar of fire. And so this idea of the fire, he appeared as the burning bush to Moses. So fire is something that is quite often associated with God the Father. Now, fire, in terms of judgment, it consumes, but it also purifies. And so the God's eventual kingdom will be pure. You can count on it. Paul told us, he told the Corinthians in Corinthians 3:12 through 15, now if anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, and straw, each one's work will become clear, for the day will show it, because it has to be revealed by fire, and the fire itself will test each one's work, what sort it is. So if anyone's work built on the foundation survives, he will receive a reward. If anyone's work is burned up, he will suffer loss. He himself will be saved, but as through fire. So this kind of tells us that there's going to be some testing and some purification going on, even for those who are believers, that that God is this idea that's going that's going around these days that says that once you are a believer, if you accept Yeshua as your Savior, and you're in that position, that it doesn't matter what you do for the rest of your life, that you're okay, you're going to make it. And it's called hyper grace, I guess, in some cases. But this kind of tells me that, okay, yeah, maybe a person will survive, they will be saved, but at the same time, all of their works will be burned up. And so we still believe that a person can actually walk away from their salvation and lose their salvation. And I know there's many that don't go along with that, but yeah, that's for a discussion for another time. All right, now the second reason that the judgment is encouraging is that the proud and the cruel enemies of God's people will be brought down. They will finally be held accountable. God has said that vengeance is His and not ours. So we see that this one horn that came up and displaced all the other the three of the other horns, and was so blasphemous, so just kind of in the face of God, he will be destroyed. And that he was destroyed while the other three kingdoms were not. So the third reason that this judgment is encouraging is because how does it end? At the end of the day, the Messiah is going to set up his kingdom, and it will last forever. Now, first of all, we're talking about not just the millennium, which is 1,000 years, but we're talking about the possibility, or the past the millennium, when there's going to be a new heaven and new earth, and that will go on and on forever. Now, we see that the three, I mentioned that the three kingdoms, the lion, the bear, and the leopard, those were all, they were not destroyed. They were stripped of their power. So I think what that tells us then is that the legacies and the cultures and so forth that were put down by these various nations will continue on. I mean, there will be people from that. So these three kingdoms will be they're still around. There's still something there. Now, this fourth kingdom. Now, we probably need to talk about the fourth kingdom a little bit, because it was completely different. Daniel described it. He couldn't even describe it actually. And I think this fourth kingdom may be, and that one horn that is so blasphemous. While these three other kingdoms were earthly kingdoms, they had kings that, earthly kings. This fourth kingdom, I think, is driven by Satan himself, and then he's driving this train here with this one horn is the Antichrist. So, did I hear somebody want to comment on that? I don't know. All right, well, we'll continue on then with, said I was in Daniel 7, then 13 through 15, I was watching in the night visions, behold, one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was brought into his presence. Dominion, glory, and sovereignty were given to him, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will never pass away, and his kingdom is one that will not be destroyed. And it says, as for me, Daniel, my spirit was disturbed within me, and the visions in my head alarmed me. So Daniel, we said that the first, here's a depiction of this Son of Man coming in clouds. And I see that, this idea of coming in the clouds is sort of, it denotes deity. Okay. This is something that all throughout the scriptures, when you see something coming in the clouds, it kind of denotes something is divine. Yeshua himself talked about this when he said, then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the land will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And then later, a couple of verses later, he says, as you have said, replied Yeshua, besides that, I tell you, soon after you will see the Son of Man sitting on the right, at the right hand of power, and coming on the clouds of heaven. So this whole idea that what Daniel is seeing here of this vision of the, as he called it, the Son of Man, basically a younger version of what was the Ancient of Days. Now, let me show one other in Mark. Yeshua again was talking about, then they shall see the Son of Man coming in clouds with great power and glory. Now, if you look in Revelation, and that's kind of one of the things I wanted to do in this class, is to see where it popped up in Revelation. And John is talking here. It says, look, in Revelation 1:7, look, he is coming with the clouds, and every eye shall see him, even those who pierced him, and all the tribes of the earth shall mourn because of him. Yes, amen. And then Revelation 14:14, then I looked, and behold, there was a white cloud, and seated on the cloud was one like a son of man. He had a golden crown on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. And finally, the last one I wanted to mention there is Revelation 11:15. Then the seventh angel trumpeted, and there were loud voices in heaven saying, the kingdom of this world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his anointed one, and he shall reign forever and ever. So here we say in Revelation 11:15, it says that the kingdoms of the world, the kingdom of this world, has become the kingdom of our Lord. So that harks back to what Daniel said, that dominion, glory, and sovereignty were given to him from all peoples, and that it would never go away. That would be forever and ever. So this dream was a little unusual in that, or it would be unusual for me anyway, because this is an interactive dream. He's got these visions, he sees these visions, and he's able to converse with this angelic being, and said, well, ask him about this, and just talking back and forth. And Daniel was concerned about this fourth beast. It just bothered him. Why would this particular one bother Daniel more than the other? And so you might wonder, okay, it said that Daniel was disturbed in his being, and you think, well, why was he disturbed over this? Was it a case of the Ancient of Days as a divine being, and then this other one coming in like the Son of Man was also given this power and basically appeared to be divine? And so that idea of the older God and the younger son it was not particular. It wasn't unknown, and it wasn't particularly unusual for for ancient Judaism. There was a good bit of writing on that and the concept, and that's that's a whole nother study that we could do on that whole thing about what did the ancient Israelites think about the Godhead. Was it one? Was it two? Was it something, a hybrid? What, and so forth. So I think this in modern Judaism that we see this resistance to Yeshua as being the Son of God or the Messiah. Personally, I think it's in part a reaction to the Christian church, as there are other things that Jews do, because the Christians, the Jews, they stand praying, and because the Christians kneel when they're praying, but then you remember that Daniel, it talks about Daniel, that he would open up his window, he would kneel down and pray. So there are things that sometimes people will do because somebody else is doing it and they don't want to be like them. So there again, let's go ahead and we'll so we can get to some of these questions. Daniel in 7:19 through 22 says, "Then I wanted to know the true meaning of the fourth beast that was different from all the others, exceedingly terrifying, with iron teeth and bronze claws, which broke in pieces and devoured, and then stomped with its feet anything that remained. Of the 10 horns on its head, the other horn that sprang up, before which 3 others fell. That horn, eyes and mouth, speaking arrogant things, and its appearance was more imposing than its companions. As I was watching, that horn was waging war against the Kedushim, and overpowering them, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was rendered in favor of the Kedushim, or the saints of the Most High, when the time came and the saints possessed the kingdom." So there I didn't do my slide there, but this word, the wording regarding the fourth beast, leads me to believe that, okay, he was not talking about the Roman Empire, and this is the reason for that is, and I don't think he's describing any kingdom per se within the last 2,000 years. For instance, the British, or the French, the Spaniards, the Portuguese, or even Genghis Khan, or any of those kind of guys. Because the reason I've come to this conclusion is that because when it says the beast is destroyed, then the millennial kingdom is ushered in immediately. So that kind of leads me to believe that that this beast that Daniel is talking about certainly would have been a future beast to him, because everything, even the Medo-Persians, the Greeks, and the Romans, and so forth, were all in the future for Daniel. That this particular beast is something. It's a different, as I say, a whole nother animal.
More evil.
Yeah, more evil.
Evil and powerful and taking over.
Yeah. So I think if we look at the 10 horns, it could be a metaphor for completeness, because 10 is the number for completeness, or it could be a literal confederation of 10 rulers. We don't really know. And then the one horn that uproots the 3, I believe, will be that's the Antichrist. And it says that he will oppress the saints, and he'll even try to change the times and the laws. So they're going to try to do whatever this beast is, it will try to change, say, maybe change the Moedim, the feast of the Lord, and then changing the laws. Well, we even see today where governments are trying to change the moral laws of God, and say that things that we have held for literally millennia, for 3,000, 3,500 years since the giving of Torah, we've held certain truths to be that certain ways, and then yet today we're seeing people trying to make laws that would change all that, would upend all of that. And so this spirit of Antichrist is still it is alive and well today. But what we do see is that this spirit of Antichrist, or the Antichrist itself, will be ultimately defeated and destroyed. Now, there is a case that when people talk about the Antichrist, being a person, or is it a person, or is it a government? I think that we could say that they could actually be this one and the same. Look back at World War II, Adolf Hitler. Certainly he was the face of Nazi Germany, and yet there were people within that government that were just as evil as he was, and in some cases possibly even more evil than he was. So you can say that one person could be the face of a movement, but then the movement itself could still be the spirit of the Antichrist. So I wanted to there's my beastie picture again. I just think that's just a horrifying picture. But in the end, the fourth beast is destroyed. And who is this fourth beast? Let me just run this one past. The more I'm thinking about this, the more I read about it, and I know some of it we've already discussed, not argued, but we discussed this, that the fourth beast to me looks more and more like it's going to be Islam. Now, I know some people have said, oh, no, it's got to be the Catholic Church or this, and that's what I've heard all my life, that the beast would be the Catholic Church, and it's going to be the Pope would be the Antichrist and so forth. But the beast is so different, and why is that? And the reason I think it's different, because Islam is not a country. You can't really tie Islam to one country, and it was started actually as a religion, as an adjunct to conquest. Muhammad started this thing because he could get these people fired up and said, okay, if you die in the cause of Islam, you'll go to heaven and have the 72 virgins and all of that kind of stuff. So it was founded as a religion of conquest, and the enemy of God's people is trying to destroy Israel along with Christianity and every other religion in the world. In effect, Islam is at war with the civilized world even today, even now. It is, people don't like to say it's politically unpopular to say that, but we are at war with a faction of Islam, and that's just the way it is. Now look at what ISIS and the Taliban do when they overrun a particular country or a territory, and they go in and they destroy any vestiges of art, culture, or religion that are in that land. We've seen it just in the last few years, where they went into Afghanistan, and what did they do? They blew up this humongous statue. I guess it was a statue of Buddha. Anyway, it was a Buddhist thing. They just blew it up because they said that that was a some kind of a depiction that that was forbidden by their culture. So this beast, not only does he conquer, but then he just tramples underfoot. They've destroyed so many things in the last few years of that were they were art, they were culture from the time maybe 2,000-3,000 years ago that people had developed these statues or architecture or whatever, and they're coming through there and just destroying it just out of hand. So
and they are definitely anti-Christ, anti-Christian.
Well, and they are. They're the spirit. They are a spirit that is anti the Messiah, anti Judaism, anti anything and everything, and so they've got their tentacles all over the world, and so for that reason, there's again, there's something that we could probably go on and on about that and what this fourth beast is, but I'm going to just go ahead and shut it down right now, and we'll talk about if the people wanted to have questions about what do you think of this fourth beast? How does it I personally believe that the fourth beast is probably Islam, but how do you think that applies to, say, Revelation and some of the other, other religions and the other writings? I think that we've talked about some folks are saying that Islam and Judaism are the only religions who keep a separate calendar from the Christian or Gregorian calendar. Judaism and Islam calendars differ from each other also. Yeah, Judaism is a solar lunar calendar. Islam is strictly a lunar calendar, and then of course we've got our Gregorian. You're right. There are some other calendars because there's a Chinese calendar I know for certain, that because having lived over there in that part of the world for several years, they have their own complete calendar that's totally different than ours and not tied to that. But what this prophecy said is, regardless, however many calendars there are, it says that they will try to change it all and bring the calendars into their realm or their own culture. We're seeing maybe not so much the calendars yet, but I think it's part and parcel to it. With the Sharia law, they're trying to introduce Sharia law everywhere, and to me, that's leads up to changing the culture, and so anyway, that's it. Anybody got some comments? We got some chat going on back and forth, but anyone want to jump in there verbally so everybody can hear it and read it?
What your last statement just caught my ear about changing culture.
Yeah.
Isn't that what we are trying to do in terms of? I mean, look at the culture we have now here in the West. It's just like the days of Noah, just about, maybe even worse, or it's pretty bad to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't we trying to reveal to others through our lives and our actions the culture that Hashem wants us to involve, be part of?
Well, I would really hope so. I hope that's what we're doing. But I think what this prophecy of Daniel is talking about is that they're saying, okay, we're going to change the festivals and the laws, the calendars and the laws, and if you don't like it, we'll kill you. That's what the beast was kind of portraying, and we're trying to change people's cultures back to a godly norm through our own words and our own actions. I see a difference in the what do you call the modus operandi of the whole thing, that we're trying to do it.
Yeah, I agree 100% there.
Yeah.
I mean, the reward for following God's culture, if you will, is blessings and good in our lives here on earth, as well as having a place in the world to come to be with Him forever.
True.
And that's His desire. That's the heart of God, So, Baruch Hashem is all I can say about that.
Yep. Yeah. So,
I think anyone who has read Walid Shubat, he was a Muslim man who was a radical terrorist and setting off bombs, this sort of thing, and he accepted Yeshua, and he's written at least one book, but he was talking about in his studies of the Bible when it came about across the mark of the beast. That was pretty interesting, if you want to explain that, how he...
Well, when he was talking about the mark of the beast, John in Revelation talks about it being the 666. It's the number of a man and so forth. And if you looked at the what in Shubat and Joel Richardson to some degree, they were talking about that this 666 looks a lot like what the current day jihadists will wear on their headbands, with the swords, the cross swords, and the symbolism that they have. And that it would, if you look at it, it could look like a 666 to the Greek writer reader, and whereas actually what he was seeing was he was seeing a picture rather than writing. So I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to see. If and maybe I'll go ahead and ask the question when we do our next invitation, that okay, look at this fourth beast and just ask people, okay, who do you think the fourth beast was, and what are your reasons for that? It would be interesting to see what people, especially, I know we've got several people that are out this weekend because it's the Thanksgiving weekend, and I've gotten some emails from folks saying, hey, we're not going to be there because we're visiting grandkids, and which good for them. And so that I think that might be kind of interesting to see what people's ideas are on this fourth beast, and how that applies to Revelation or to this. Why do you think it's Rome, or why do you think it might be something else like I do? So I'll go ahead and put that in the invitation for next week when we do this. So, all right. Any other comments on some of this stuff with what Daniel? That kind of fills out the chapter 7, and then next week we'll go on to chapter 8. And
well, Steve.
Yes, sir.